What's up YouTube? My name is Duress and welcome back to the channel, and today I was recording a gameplay video and managed to punt not one but two very good games in a row versus Shadow Rider. No, I baited him into oh, that was so dumb. I can't believe it. And I got very tilted, so instead we are going to take a look at the upcoming errata to tools and how they will impact the expanded format. So let's go ahead and take a look at Play Pokemon statement right here. I'll just go ahead and read it out. In the past, Pokemon tool cards were considered a subcategory of item cards. When the Scarlet and Violet expansion becomes legal for play, all Pokemon tool cards will receive an errata. Moving forward, Pokemon tool will be its own category of trainer card. That means there will be 4 categories of trainer cards: Item, Supporter, Stadium, and Pokemon Tool. Starting with the Scarlet and Violet series, all Pokemon Tool cards will be printed as their own category, not as item cards. Pokemon Tool cards from all previous series will receive errata to align with this change. For example, Vitality Band says item on it, but it won't be considered an item card once this change goes into an effect. It's just a Pokemon tool. The Pokemon tool card errata affects certain card interactions. For example, if the effect of Pokestop is used, the player would no longer put any discarded Pokemon tools into their hand. On the other hand, if Vikavolt V's paralyzing bolt attack is used, the opponent would be able to play Pokemon tool cards during their next turn, since those are no longer considered item cards. Be sure to pay close attention to these card effects moving forward. The Pokemon Tool card errata will be applied at Pokemon TCG Scarlet and Violet pre-release tournaments. Be sure to come back and check up on the rest of everything. So this is pretty interesting. I will first go ahead and just say that while it does change some aspects of gameplay, I think in the vast majority of matchups, it won't have an impact on gameplay. Expanded offers so much draw power that most decks are going to find their tools that way just by drawing a lot of cards. But that being said, there is one notable exception that is starting to see inclusion in many decks, and that is Forest Seal Stone. So Forest Seal Stone has already gone way above and beyond my expectations and is an auto-include in quite literally any deck without a good V-Star power, and has a V2 attach it to. Not only is it a computer search that you can leave on the board to activate later, though you generally want to use it the turn you attach it, due to its wording, the Pokemon V this card is attached to can use this power. Forest Seal Stone circumvents ability lock. With this change now, Forest Seal Stone now circumvents both ability and item lock, which is incredibly powerful. That being said, for the most part, outside of Forest Seal Stone, I don't think really too much changes, to be honest with you. In your average matchup, I think one of the larger reasons for this is that one of the premier ways to find your tools currently is Guzma Hala. If you really need a choice band, if you really need your float stones, you're probably running at least 1, maybe even 2 copies of Guzma Hala, but generally just 1, being able to search it out with a Tapu Lele. This is important because the card specifically has the word tool on it, the word Pokemon tool, or the phrase Pokemon tool, I should say. So this errata will not be impacting Guzma Hala. That being said, I don't think there is a reason to start including Guzma Hala if you don't have valid targets for all of the options, meaning you definitely want to be playing special energy and you want to be playing some amount of stadiums, generally probably fairly impactful stadiums, not the more passive ones like your chaotic swells, but something to keep in mind. So looking at the specific decks that this does impact rather than just specific cards, I think everyone generally agrees that the deck that this nerfs the most, as stated by Stefan Ivanov on his Twitter thread about the whole tool errata, is Eggrow, which is Rowlet and Alolan Executor GX usually combined with Decidueye, which stops damage from V and GX Pokemon, as well as your Ancient Origins of Vileplume, which locks out your opponent from playing item. Being able to not only use Forest Seal Stone to grab something like a Guzma Hala to move your attacker into the active under item lock is incredible, but also being able to attach a float stone under Vileplume's item lock is something that deck pilots will have to see through trial and error how to best combat that nerf. my first thought would be to potentially play or increase whatever it is, the amount of Fabas that you have in your deck. Faba is a supporter that plays, is a supporter that puts a special energy or tool into the lost zone, and this will reliably remove your tools while under item lock. That being said, considering now how much easier it will be to attach tools under item lock rather than removing them, I'd imagine that this deck will really struggle to adapt to this change and may potentially fall out of meta. I say fall out of meta, it's not quite in the meta, though it will have a much tougher time getting itself back into the meta with this errata. The other deck this severely impacts is the Orbeetle Evomancy stall deck. I think this deck will be impacted about the same as Eggrow, and in comparing them, I think there's two factors that offset each other that made me kind of come to this conclusion. The first being that this deck is one of, if not like the hardest decks to play in the expanded format, at least in my opinion, though I've only had a few games with it. But with that said, it is important to emphasize that Evomancy can establish a much stronger lock with not only Vileplumes, but stuff like Dust Noir, basically being a Temple of Sinnoh on a stick, negating special energy into just color energy, as well as Stoutland blocking supporters, which is just obscene so long as it stays in the active. So with those locks, as well as the Magna Zone from Plasma Storm, which lets you play 2 supporters, you generally have more options to maneuver through the game so that you're not reliant solely upon your item. Something to consider. So those are really the 2 main cards and the 2 main decks that I really wanted to focus on, but there are plenty of other text and inclusions in Expanded that are still impacted. The first being Garbodor. With this change, simply said, you can now attach a tool under Vileplume's item lock, thereby turning off the item lock. So pretty interesting. When we compare that to something like a Vikavolt V, while attacks with an item locking effect such as Vikavolt or Seismitoad have generally been less preferred to abilities, in the previous case mentioned where item lock is applied, then a tool is attached, the effect of an attack will continue to occur with this Vikavolt or something like a Seismitoad, where it is part of the effect rather than the ability. That will still continue to occur, unlike the Garbodor ability. That being said, Pokemon Ranger exists, and it still seems to be a one-of in a lot of decks to combat ADP, so something to keep in mind. Unfortunately, I have to admit that this errata does impact my beautiful creation that is Rainbow Sylveon. Sylveon V's Dream Gift ability lets you search for an item and end your turn, a perfect effect for going first. Oftentimes I found myself either going for a Float Stone to get your Sylveon into the active, or for a Seal Stone to find any card to do anything. A lot of the times it is a triple acceleration energy, since those are the hardest to find. This errata will now remove that option, but again, this is a deck that does play Guzma Hala, so it's generally not an issue past the first turn. It's also really important to remember that Radiant Eternatus is coming out soon, which searches for 2 VMAXs and ends your turn. That is miles better than Sylveon's turn-ending ability. I'm going to be honest with you. Radiant Eternatus is so snapped in half broken that you should have to buy 2 of them for sanctioned play, but we will save that for the set review video. So those are the main ones, really. I know there's a couple more fringe cases, but I think this gives us like a good overview, a good foothold of how this change impacts Expanded, which, to be honest, is really not that much other than a general nerf to item lock decks. While I am a fan of item lock decks, I think this change is not only an interesting one, but one I think is overall good for the game. My suspicion is that not being able to find tools so easily via these item searches will allow Pokemon to develop higher impact tools, as players will theoretically have a tougher time finding them. On top of that, I think that allowing some sort of interactivity outside of supporters under item lock is not only more fun, but forcing item lock decks who have a game plan of just stall you out, do nothing type of deal. To include like more proactive options will lead to just generally better gameplay experiences. But that being said, that is just all my opinions splurted onto a notepad in about 20 minutes. So let me know what you think. Do you think this change signals the end times for the Pokemon TCG? Or are you reveling around a pile of burning ancient origin Vileplumes? Does this change mean like absolutely nothing to you? Is it of no importance? Let me know. Let me know what you think. I'm always interested in hearing other expanded players' opinions. So yeah, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all on the next episode. Peace out.